President Donald Trump is calling on Congress to immediately deal with immigration and security loopholes that he says are creating a national emergency. The call comes nearly a week after the president threatened to close the border or sections of it this week if Mexico didn't stop the wave of migrants that are overloading officials at ports of entry.
Joining us with his reaction to the president's statements, the issues at the border, and so much more is Georgia Congressman Rob Woodall. The congressman serves on the House Committee on Rules, the House Budget Committee, and also the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Crystal.
Do you support the president's idea of closing down the border and cutting aid to the Northern Triangle countries?
We've got to try a lot of different things to make this work. What you've seen the president do from day one of his administration is to try to turn what was a crisis situation in the Obama administration in the right direction. We saw that for a couple of months.
It's gotten worse, though, hasn't it?
In the early months, it got better. When folks thought the president was going to be able to implement legal immigration solutions, when he was going to be able to implement reforms, it got better. Now that folks have seen that we're not going to be able to find the partnership in Congress to actually change the law, it's gotten worse and will continue to get worse, projected through the rest of the year.
I don't think anyone's holding their breath for that change to come from Congress, although the pressure is going to get stronger and stronger because this issue at the border, I was just there last week, it's only going to get worse based on what's happening now. What would the fix look like? How would Congress fix this if Congress were to be serious? I assume there'd be some horse trading and negotiating.
Well, Buck, I've been in Congress for 8 years, and I've only gotten to vote on an immigration bill twice. That was both last summer. That bill solved the issue of the Dreamers. It also dealt with border security. I voted for both of those bills because I think it's a bifurcated solution. We have to deal with legal immigration, make it easier for folks who want to come to the country for a short period of time to get here. We also have to deal with border security, make it harder for folks who want to come here unlawfully to get here.
But now, right now, people are showing up and claiming asylum. So how would you fix the asylum process? Because it seems that the issue here is that there's an inability within the system to implement the laws that exist or inability or unwillingness, depending on how you look at it. People come in, they claim asylum, they go into the interior of the United States, and then no one really knows what's going to happen. And when most people would assume that they're very unlikely to, even if denied asylum, be deported. So what do we do?
Yeah, Buck, that's exactly right. What you would expect if someone's breaking the law is for them to go and hide. But the new normal is to cross the border illegally and then try to find someone to turn yourself into, because it's known that if you get into that asylum chain, it can take years to litigate your claim, and in the meantime, you can stay right here in the country. One of the things we can do is move those asylum claims from the border into the home country. Allow those claims to be filed at the embassy, at the consulate in that resident's home country, eliminating the incentive to come to the border. We can hire more immigration judges to have those cases adjudicated more quickly. If you know it's going to be years and years and years, it looks like a way to stay in America temporarily. If you know it's going to be adjudicated in the next 48 hours, it ends that incentive. And we've got to send a clear message to folks that if your mom or dad is coming to work in the United States temporarily, there's a legal way to do that. There's a legal visa that we can give that mom or dad. They can come earn money for their family and then turn and go back home. The truth is we've gotten so good at border security as Americans. That's not what the newspaper tells us, but we really are good at it, that dads and moms have gotten stuck in the country, whereas a decade ago they might have traveled back and forth during the growing season, during the working season. Now they can't do that. So the spouse and the kids are now leaving their home country and traveling north. Asylum claims are just the claim that you make in order to prevent immediate deportation.
So I noticed that the words wall, the word wall did not come out of your mouth in that list of the solutions and the ideas that you have for how to fix what's going on there. Do you think that the president has failed to set the terms of the debate correctly by fixating on this one thing, a border wall, which we could debate the merits of for and against, when really what's going on is this surge in family units, is this issues with the asylum process, the backlog, the need for more immigration judges? Has he hardened the terms of the debate around a wall to the exclusion of other things that may be more workable, or where you may find some more support across the aisle?
Well, that debate was had during the campaign. He campaigned on a wall, and to his credit, he's been checking off his list of campaign promises one by one by one. That's the surprising thing about the Trump presidency, is he's actually doing what he promised he would do. That's not usually the case in a presidential election. That said, the American people and the body politic were hardened by that debate. And so I believe with all of my being that this president is going to be the one to put his signature on the bill that solves our immigration challenges for another 4 decades, just like Ronald Reagan did in the 80s. I believe President Trump is going to do it.
It sure doesn't look that way today.
I'll tell you why, and I just need my Democratic colleagues to let the steam off of their side of the pot. You know how it is these days. If President Trump says it's sunny outside, they say it's cloudy outside. We're in that us against them era. But the president wants to sign that immigration bill. He came to Capitol Hill, came to the Republican conference last spring to say exactly that. Send a bill to my desk. Do whatever you need to do. This is an American crisis. We are in the solutions business, not the blame business. Let's fix it together.
Congressman, you sit on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Speaking of places where the steam perhaps could be let off, or at least there could be some bipartisan comedy on an issue, whatever happened to infrastructure? Right. Is it something, I think it's fair to say there's been almost no movement on it whatsoever since Trump came into office. Are Republicans serious about it? Are Democrats serious about it? What is your committee doing? Are we going to fix the roads and bridges and all these things we've heard about?
Well, you remember when we first got started in the Trump administration, we were going to have $200 billion in dollar investment in order to get about $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion worth of infrastructure improvements by leveraging that money in local and state projects across the country. That didn't pass the smell test from are you really going to get big dollars into transportation? We're going to come back again this year and go for bigger dollars. It is a bipartisan issue. Pete DeFazio leads that committee now as a Democrat. Sam Graves leads it as a Republican. We have the ability to move bipartisan bills forward, just as we did in the Republican-led Congress. But we've got to get past this place that we are right now, where we're just poking each other with sharp political sticks. I think the first quarter was the poke each other quarter, and you're going to see an infrastructure bill begin to develop here in the second quarter.
I love the optimism from this man.
An infrastructure bill in the second quarter of this year going into a presidential election, really?
The time is now. Now, remember, we have 2 big infrastructure projects that we're working on. There's an infrastructure bill we're talking about for 2019. Then it's time to reauthorize the federal highway system in 2020. So those are 2 giant Transportation and Infrastructure Committee bills that have to move. Whether or not we'll do each of those individually, whether or not those will get melded together, that's still an open question right now. But the conversation is beginning, and there's floor time set aside to deal with infrastructure if we can get something done here in the second quarter.
Democrats have moved to order the release of 6 years of the president's tax returns. Do the American people deserve to know what financial entanglements this president has?
When we were bringing that bill to the floor earlier this year, we offered the amendment in the Rules Committee to say, listen, if this is such a good idea, let's release the Speaker of the House's tax returns too, because that's the 3rd highest ranking elected official in the land. Democrats said, no, that's not such a great idea. Let's just focus on the president right now. We're politicizing the tax system. Presidents have never been forced to release it. They volunteered to release those tax returns. To see what the Ways and Means Committee is doing now to use its Article 1 power to weaponize the tax code is really disturbing. And I hope it is, again, just a sign of this first quarter outrage and that we'll quickly move past that and get into the things that the Ways and Means Committee needs to be working on, like trade, like tax policy, like health care.
Before we let you go, Congressman, what can you tell us about where the budget's going?
Well, if you watched the Budget Committee yesterday, you know that we were not even working on a budget this year. The Democrats have completely surrendered on trying to find even agreement within their own conference. That's what happens when you take over control. You saw us go through those same machinations when I was elected in 2011 and Republicans took control. Nancy Pelosi's conference has never been more divided than it is right now, and they could not find a pathway forward. One of our fundamental duties is constitutionally assigned to the Congress to form a budget, and it appears that the Democrats have decided they just won't do it this year.
Wanted to ask you one last political question as a Georgian. Georgia, a swing state? Is Georgia turning more purple? You represent Metro Atlanta. What's the character of your district right now?
Georgia's still a very conservative district. Now, I represent a majority-minority district. I believe I'm the only Republican outside of California, Texas, and Florida who has a majority-minority district, and it's awesome. It's first-generation Americans who love America, who believe in faith and family and freedom and education. These are those values that unite us all. But what we saw in Georgia this last cycle was a Democratic machine that found every single voter, registered them, and turned them out. Give credit where credit is due. The Democrats did an amazing job. But what you saw was their high watermark in an off-year election. When our voters come back in a presidential election, you'll see Georgia be as dark red as it has always been.
Congressman, thanks for coming to see us. We appreciate it.
Chris, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.